going? Iissham here, and yes, I have finally brought my most requested video out, my Resto Shaman 8.0.1 BFA guide for everyone out there. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you do, remember to leave a like and to subscribe if you're new to the channel. So, to get started, I think I should talk about the upcoming Resto Shaman changes that are going to go live on the 24th, I believe, which is the Monday or the Tuesday of September coming up, and how that's going to impact the Resto Shaman class, because right now you can see this is basically the standard Resto Shaman build that you would use. It's pretty clear cut. You could use this for any game that you wanted and it would be fine the majority of the time. But now with the Resto Shaman changes that are occurring, it is going to change the playstyle a lot more, and I think it's going to be a lot more in line to how we kind of played in Legion, which is going to be interesting. So the first change that is happening is nerf to our Surging Tide Azerite trait, and they're reducing that trait by 25% in PvP combat. So, for those of you who may not be aware, the trait is whenever someone's health pool dips below 50%, and if you riptide them, then they get a shield that I think if you have 3 traits, it can get up to like 16k. So, obviously, you can see like that is pretty fucking strong. And that's why all the shamans, they would just, farm the gear to get that. And that's why it was even recommended if you don't have those traits, just farm heroics, because that trait literally makes a world of difference, because it makes it so you basically never have to cast. Sure, your teammate gets to like 50% health, but that's fake. It doesn't really matter if you can just spam Riptide, because even that shield itself didn't have any like internal cooldown or anything like that. And the next change for Resto Shaman is going to be the Rippling Waters 33% nerf. So this is Rippling Waters, and so they nerfed the heal by 33%. So again, another reason why shamans could just spam Riptide, and they would just do a lot of healing. So that's getting nerfed by 33%, which I think is a good change as well. And now the last change for Resto Shamans for the Riptide shenanigans, anyways, is that Riptide healing is going to be reduced by 15%. And yeah, that is going to be significant. And then quickly, I'll discuss the last couple of changes before we go into how this is going to affect our Resto Shaman gameplay. Is that they finally nerfed this fucking thing, Spearlink, and just made it, in my opinion, completely unplayable. I don't know why they wouldn't take it out of the game now. They made it so to use Spearlink, it's not instant anymore. It's a 1.5 second cast. So again, that right there basically makes it unplayable. I mean, you can literally just get, if you let that fall off and you have to cast it again, you could literally just get locked out and never get the opportunity to use that. And therefore, you just can't, if you're getting lower and lower and you can't use that, you're fucked, because you don't have Link as an oh shit cooldown to pick yourself up. So I think that's a good change. But they also went overboard, of course. So they also increased the mana that Spearlink costs by 50%. So it's already pretty fucking expensive, AK mana, but now they shit on it even more, which is fucking glorious. And then the last thing that they changed was, instead of reducing or redistributing 35% of the damage, it only redistributes 25% of the damage now. So, in my opinion, Spearlink, completely unplayable. They should have literally just removed the talent. I've hated the design ever since Legion. I thought it was fucking garbage. But yeah, so there's that. So, how does this affect our Resto Shaman gameplay, and why have I said it kind of goes more in line with Legion? So, you are going to have to cast a hell of a lot more as Resto Shaman, which is going to be interesting. We might have issues with mana now. I'm not too sure. That's just one thing that I've kind of noticed when I didn't have the Riptide trait, that since I've had to cast a lot more, your mana goes down way quicker, because Healing Surge is a pretty expensive heal. 4k mana, and Healing Wave, it's really slow. It's not as effective and as efficient as Healing Surge. So yeah, that's just my opinion. So now what you're going to want to do, instead of going Torrent every single game, I think you are going to want to go back to Undulation. And Undulation for like 2/3 of Legion was the go-to. Torrent was super good at the very start of Legion because it was 40%, but then they reduced it to 30%, and they also nerfed Riptide a little bit. So Undulation became the clear winner, and yeah, basically the majority of Legion, I would say. So I think we are going to have to go back to Undulation because Riptide is just not going to be nearly as good as it was. So with that being said, you basically always want to use Undulation. Unleash now, since this is going to get nerfed a lot, Unleash is a lot better than it used to be. So you can use Unleash, and it's probably not going to lose you games. Like the initial heal it does is a lot better than what it was in Legion. So you can mess around with Unleash if you want. Maybe you're going against teams that you're having a hard time casting, so you want to use Unleash just for that extra little something something. But in my opinion, you should probably use Undulation every single game. I think Tauren is going to be completely useless with all the Riptide changes now. So now we're going to go over to level 30. We have Echo of the Elements, Deluge, and we have Earthshield. So let's start with Echo of the Elements. Echo of the Elements was, the best thing to use in Legion again, but now they changed where Earthshield and Echo of the Elements are on your talents, so you have to choose one or the other. Now, since Echo of the Elements, or since Riptide got nerfed, I don't see there being any reason that you want to use Echo, because you don't need the 2 charges from Riptide, because Riptide is probably going to be pretty underwhelming. Healing Stream Totem still isn't bad, especially if you have some of the traits. The little chain heal stuff isn't bad, but again, I think Earthshield is just going to outweigh it, because Earthshield still does a significant amount of healing, and it increases the healing that you do to your target by 10%, which is pretty good. Now, I know Earthshield is purgeable, but again, it doesn't have a cooldown anymore, and it's back to that 9 charges, so you are going to have to refresh it a lot less. So again, I really like Earthshield, and again, especially now, there's a world where before the nerfs, you could use Tauren, Echo, and Rippling, and Spearlink can literally never have to cast. You get Riptide, you get Riptide, because you get 3 Riptide charges. But now, your Riptide won't do shit, so just give that a nice little X. I wouldn't use it. I don't think it's going to be worth it. Deluge, PV, bullshit, chain heals, yeah, just put an X with that. We don't care about that. So, for right now, I think you definitely want to go with Earthshield. Instead of this, it just does so much healing, increases the healing that you do to them, so yeah, just Earthshield 100%. Now 45, this is getting a little more interesting. So with this, the change of some positions of various talents, you now get to choose between roots and you can have a better cap if you want, but you could play Earth Grab Totem every single game, more or less, because now you no longer have to choose between Capacitor Totem, the stun, I think they made it back to cap, or roots. So it's really awesome. So if you play this, you get cap and you get roots, which is just super awesome. You just get way more utility as that Resto Shaman. So I really like that. It makes Resto Shaman a lot more interesting because finally you have more support for yourself, which is very, very cool. But there still are options. You can still, depending on your comp, it's going to have, that's going to be the biggest factor in determining what you end up playing. So if we look at Spear Wolf, while transformed into Ghost Wolf, you gain 5% increased movement speed and 5% damage reduction every 1 second, stacking up to 4 times. So this is basically the trait that we had on our artifact weapon in Legion, but it's buffed because it doesn't expire once it gets to the max stack, which is awesome. So you can just sit Ghost Wolf forever and just have that up always, which is really, really cool. So, if you're playing with a mage or something like that has a fuck ton of roots, like a frost mage, and you're playing with a rogue that has lots of stuns, maybe you want to mess around with a spear wolf, you want to try wolfing stuns or things like that, because it is really good. And if you pair this with the spirit wolf talent, that increases your Spirit Wolf by an additional 10%. They do stack, and it is just really crazy. So not only are you taking 25%, or sorry, 20% reduced damage, and your Ghost Wolf is significantly faster, you also get healed for 3% of your health every 2 seconds. So it is it is almost on par with the Resto Bear form if you play that and that, except a little bit better because you can kite a lot better. So yeah, that just depends on your comp that you're playing. And then Static Charge, Again, if you're playing, maybe you're playing against like an unholy DK, this might not be bad, because you could always reduce the cooldown by 20 seconds. So instead of a minute cooldown on your cap totem, it's just going to be 40 seconds, which is okay. It's not horrible, but again, I think these two are just far above this one. So I would put an X through that one. Again, it's preference. If you want to mess around with this, you can, but I think you get a lot more benefits from playing Earth Grab or even Spirit Wolf compared to the static chart. So again, pick between this one or this one based off your comp and play around with this one if you really want to. So now we're going to go over to the level 60 tree. So Ancestral Vigor, again, this is just PvE shenanigans, so we're just going to put a little X through that. And then Ancestral Protection Totem. So the good old Res Totem from Legion, again, it has its little gimmicks that you can use it with, but if you want to be consistent and you want the most chance to win, I would use Earthen Wall Totem. It's the exact same basically that it was in Legion. It's going to be super effective against, those dot classes, so Feral, Assassination Rogue, Shadow Priest, Affliction Warlock, etc. So this is just super strong, again, because at the start of the expansion it seems that the scaling is the best for it, and it just does the most. So yeah, this is still super good. You should pick this like 100% of the time. So now we go to the 75 talent tier. We have Nature's Guardian. When your health is brought below 35%, you instantly heal for 20% of your maximum health. Cannot occur more than once every 45 seconds. So again, this is really good. We've had this like all up until up until Legion, I think, or yeah, you get into that stun, you're like, oh shit, you just need a little extra something, and then yeah, you have this nice oh shit heal that heals you for 20% of your maximum health. So yeah, it's pretty good. You should probably pick this every single game. And then there's things like Graceful Spirit, which reduces cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace by 60 seconds and increases your movement speed by 20% while it's active. This is definitely interesting, but since they nerfed the duration of Spirit Walker's Grace, it's not like 24 seconds or whatever it was in Legion with the traits. It's okay. The only issue is you can get punished for this a lot more than you can get punished for this. Like, it's super hard to like bait this out or whatever and just like, outplay it. But this, you can literally just purge the Spirit Walker's Grace, and it's like, oh fuck. Well, you lose the benefit to it, because if it gets purged, this talent has no effect. And then you have the Wind Rush Totem. Again, super fucking shitty, 2-minute cooldown, and increases your movement speed by 60% for 5 seconds. So yeah, horrible, especially if you're trying to chase someone in arena. It only has a 10-yard range, and has a 2-minute cooldown. So yeah, if you use it for like a gateway or something like that, still wouldn't do really anything at all. So yeah, you just want to put an X through this. You never want to use Wind Rush Totem. But these two, it just depends. Maybe you want to use Graceful Spirit against like I don't know, an unholy Windwalker H-Pal, something that doesn't have a purge. You might get some benefit out of this, like maybe out of their stuns you pop this, and then you can use that to kite and heal. So it definitely has some matchups it might not be bad in. But again, you might want, maybe you're almost dying in every stun, so the Nature's Guardian might just be better for you. So the majority of the time, I would pick Nature's Guardian, but again, if you want to mess around with Graceful Spirit, it's kind of like up here for Spirit Wolf or whatever. It just depends on your matchup, but you could use Nature's Guardian every single time, and it's not going to cost you games. So we go to the next tier, level 90. We have Flash Flood, Downpour, and Cloudburst. Let's start over here with Cloudburst Totem. It's a shadow of what it was in WoD. It doesn't do nearly enough healing, and healing stream right now, especially with the traits, is just too good. Yeah, so Cloudburst Totem, just put an X through that. Downpour, basically it's our artifact weapon special ability from Legion. It's okay, but 5-second cooldown is not bad, but again, every target you hit increases the cooldown by 5 seconds. So if you're playing with a hunter or something like PHS, you heal everyone. It's going to make the cooldown pretty big, so I don't know, not a huge fan of this. I did really like it in Legion, however, now I think it's just not worth it. So again, I'm going to put an X through this. And now we're going to go to Flash Flood. When you consume Tidal Waves, the cast time of your next heal is reduced by 20%. So what Tidal Wave is, you go over here, Cast time of your next healing wave reduced by 30%. Critical effect chance of your next healing surge is increased by 40%. So if I heal with my healing surge, I get that proc. And then I get Flash Flood, the cast time of your next heal is reduced by 20%. Which I think is going to be super good now. Because since we're basically only going to have one Riptide, maybe two if you still decide to use Rippling Waters for some reason, you're not going to get punished as much for not having that Tidal Wave proc, because your heal, you're still going to get that 20% increased speed on your next heal, which is nice. So yeah, I'd pick Flash Flood like all the time basically. Maybe Downpour in RVGs, but again, I just don't think it's worth it compared to Flash Flood. But yeah, so Flash Flood, again, you're not going to lose games from it. Super good. Now the level 100 tiers, again, it's the most cut and dry one. It's just the easiest one you have to do. High Tide, PV, X, Wellspring, X, Ascendance. Transform into a Water Ascendant for 15 seconds, causing all healing you deal to be duplicated and distributed evenly among nearby allies. This is your oh shit button. Everyone's dying. Pop it. Boom. Everyone's alive. So you want to use this. It's been like the go-to shaman cooldown since Cataclysm. So yeah, it's super good. Always pick it, no matter what. You could lose a game actually if you pick these other talents. The other ones, you know, you're probably not going to lose a game if you pick Cloudburst. You will lose a game if you pick High Tide over Ascendance. So always use Ascendance. Alright, so now we're going to discuss the PvP talents. So the first row is just going to be your Trinket or Relentless. I never use Relentless anymore, and then again in Legion towards the end, I always dislike Relentless. It's just so boring to me. But you know, again, reducing the duration of CC by 20% definitely has its place in Arena if you think that you're just getting CC'd so much and you don't need that oh shit Trinket Link button. Then I would definitely use Relentless. Adaptation, again, it has its place in Arena if you're being super aggressive and you want to get out of like the 1 CC that the enemy team has instantly, and you want to get out of it like super quick every time. So like a Fear or like a Hunter Trap or something like that. Again, use Relentless. If you find yourself trinketing the very first thing against some teams and you just want that trinket up quicker, yeah, use Adapt. And then the Medallion, you know, just use it whenever you need to like Trinket Link or whatever, or you need to get out of a blind from a rogue, stuff like that. So yeah, just these trinkets, it depends on the matchup. Relentless, use it if you're getting CC'd so much and you don't need a oh shit button. Adaptation, use it if you're being really offensive against a team and you find yourself trinketing the very first thing consistently against that particular matchup. And then the Trinket, use it against a rogue if you want to Trinket Blind, or if you want to use it for Trinket Link. Yeah. So again, these just depend on matchup. And now, whoops, this build right here, this used to be like the best generic Resto Shaman build. You could change some things up depending on the comp, but you could use this and it would be like beneficial in every single match. But now that Rippling Waters is like nerfed to shit, you can play around with it a little bit more, which is cool. So let's look at these. So we've already discussed Spirit Link. Again, you don't want to use this, just remove that. We'll touch on Sky Fury again. Sky Fury is the exact same how it was towards the end of Legion. It increases a critical effect of your damaging and healing spells for your allies within 40 yards by 20%. So again, still pretty good. Since I am playing with Volk a lot, a Fire Mage, I am probably going to use Sky Fury a lot because crit is super important to them. Again, if you're playing with a Boomy as well, you might want to use Sky Fury instead of Rippling Waters now. Because yeah, it is still pretty good. Counter-Strike, the exact same that it was in Legion. Use it if you kind of want to punish the team for, you know, being super crazy offensive, and maybe, you know, you could use that instead of Rippling Waters. So again, I don't like Counter-Strike because it's not as consistent. You're going to get a lot more benefit out of using Sky Fury compared to Counter-Strike Totem, because yeah, it has 5 health, so someone could just be like, oh wait, Counter-Strike, I'm just going to spit on it and it's going to die. So Now, since we are going to have to cast a lot more, you can actually use Swelling Waves again, which is what the go-to in Legion. So if you're getting trained a lot and you're not going to be using your, the torrent garbage anymore, using Swelling Waves instead of Rippling Waters will definitely have a place in Arena again. So yeah, it just depends on the matchup. Swelling Waves, use it if you're getting trained a lot. I would use it against really rotty things now as well. So like if your whole team is getting to like 20%, you can toss yourself one healing surge, and then that buys you some more time to focus on your team before you have to LOS and worry about yourself again. So yeah, again, depends on the matchup. Voodoo Mastery reduces the cooldown of your Hex spell by 20 seconds, or the cooldown of your Voodoo Totem by 10 seconds. So we don't have Voodoo Totem as Resto Shaman. I don't even think Voodoo Totem's in the game anymore. So we're kind of sad about that. But yeah, Voodoo Mastery. If you're playing a comp like a melee cleave and you want to get that like off DR Hex, use Voodoo Mastery. If not, don't worry about it. Electrocute, you should probably use it if you want to be offensive, if you want to get some damage going against teams that you can purge a lot. I fucking love Electrocute. It was like one of my favorite talents in Legion. I would use this instead of Grounding Totem like all the time because I just loved being offensive and actually contributing to a kill. Fuck you, Purifying Waters. Again, they really nerfed it a lot in Legion. It used to be 5%, now it's 3%, so again, I just don't think it's worth it at all to use. So I would never use this one. Tidebringer, I saw some shamans play this a lot with this, but since this is shit, yeah, you don't want to ever use this. So these three, just put a big X through that. Calming Waters, they nerfed it a little bit for BFA, so it's no longer 70% of interrupts reduces duration of the next successful silence or interrupt cast upon you within 10 seconds by 15%. It's no longer 70%, so that's a little bit of a nerf. Again, use this if you find yourself consistently getting kicked, struggling to actually get cast off. I would use that. But again, if you're more of a higher level shaman, maybe like 2k plus, and you find kicks aren't the end of the world, I would use something else besides Calming Waters. So now, Spectral Recovery. While in Ghost Wolf, you heal 3% health every 2 seconds, increases the movement speed of Ghost Wolf by an additional 10%. Depending on your comp, if you're not playing with like a Fire Mage or Boomy, I would use this over Rippling Waters and just use Electrocute, Grounding, Spectral Recovery, because Spectral Recovery is pretty good. Like 40% movement speed for Ghost Wolf isn't bad, and it heals you for 3% of your health, while you're just chilling in Ghost Wolf. So it definitely has its place. I think it's pretty undervalued for most Resto Shamans, but again, I think it is super good, especially after all the nerfs to Spirit Link and Rippling Waters, and Riptide. So again, I think because of that, it's just gonna be super good. And yeah, again, it just depends on your comp. But yeah, so the generic shaman build that I would suggest to you is going to be Trinket, Electrocute, Grounding Totem, and then either Sky Fury, Swelling Waves, or Spectral Recovery. Because again, Sky Fury you can use for yourself. You're not going to lose games because of it. Spectral Recovery, again, you're going to be speedy. You're going to heal yourself some more, so it might help you with your survivability. You can use that instead of Sky Fury, and it's still going to be fine. Or Swelling Waves if you have to heal a fuck ton on yourself. If you have to deal with a lot of AoE pressure, I would use Swelling Waves. So again, it is just personal preference, but you could probably, yeah, I would just stick with these three talents for sure, like basically every game. But yeah, if you're a little more advanced, you can change it, you could play with it a little bit more. But yeah, for the most part, these three are fine. And then the last tier, Sky Fury, Swelling Waves, or Spectral Recovery. So now we're going to talk a little bit about stat priority. This is just going to be super quick. So Intellect is obviously going to be number 1, and then I think it would go Versatility as number 2, Mastery, Haste, and then Crit. I have a lot of Crit because I have a lot of Mastery crit gear, which I wish it would just be verse Mastery or verse Haste. Mastery is really good because the lower they get, obviously your heals are going to be a lot more effective. Haste is the second best because Obviously, the more haste you have, your globals become a little bit quicker and your cast times become reduced. However, I don't think haste is better than mastery, because we do have things like flash flood, we do have things like tidal waves, so I do think haste becomes a little less relevant compared to mastery, especially now. And then crit has never been the best stat for Resto Shaman. I mean, it's okay, but especially since they reduced crit in PvP, I think in MOP it's not as good as it was. So yep, so just remember intellect, versatility, mastery, haste, crit as stat priorities. Okay, Dana. So now we're going to talk a little bit about Azerite Traits. I'm just going to try to make this segment short and sweet. So for the first ring, you should aim to get 3 of the Surging Tide traits. Now I know they're going to be nerfing it by 25% in PvP combat, but with that being said, it still overshadows all the other traits that you can get in that ring. So you should aim to get 3 of those for sure. If you can't get access to the Surging Tide traits, then I recommend you going for the Healing Stream traits, which are still really good. However, they're just not as good as the Surging Tide traits. And the Healing Stream trait, basically what it does is gives your Healing Stream a little chain heal effect whenever it heals, so it does an additional 1000 heal or whatever to everyone, and then the heal diminishes by 30% per person it heals. So again, super good. Again, get the three Surging Tide traits if you can. If you cannot get access to them, then go for the Healing Stream trait. And then for the second ring, I would get the Portent trait. Those ones are super good. It's if you heal your teammate and then they get a buff, and whenever they drop below 50% health, then they'll instantly consume that buff, and it'll heal them for like 50%, or not 50% of their health, it'll heal them for X amount whenever they drop below 50%. So that's really good. I like that one a lot. And then the next one I would recommend getting is Savior. So whenever your teammate drops to 35% or below, you have an additional chance to heal them for like 3500, and again you can stack those. So those 2 are really good, and those 4 that I talked about, get your hands on whatever ones you can. Those are going to make a world of difference. And then there's like other minor traits that you can get, so just basic stat ones. Look for ones that increase your haste. That would be important, increasing your haste, or mastery. I don't know if there's one that can increase your versatility as well, but I would aim for those 3, because I do know that there's some that increases your critical strike chance. Just ignore that one. That one's garbage. So yeah, those 4 traits that I just said, I recommend you going for those, and yeah. Right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about my macros. And my macros, I've done a guide for Legion, and I've done a guide for Warlords of Draenor, I think. Nope, just Legion. I've done 2 guides in Legion though, that's right. So my macros have basically all stayed the same. So I have an @cursor earth grab, so that just makes it so when I have my cursor somewhere and I use earth grab, it just instantly roots them. So that way, I have that for a lot of my macros. I have that macro for my spear link as well. So that way it just saves some time, because at the higher end, those little tiny differences can make a difference. So I recommend you use that. And then yeah, Voodoo Totem, that doesn't really matter. I'll just delete that. So the next macro that I recommend you using to stop casting, using Grounding Totem. Because that way, let's say you're casting a spell and you see a mage casting Sheep, so instead of you having to move like that, then push Grounding Totem, it saves you some time. So you see a mage casting Sheep, you just push that, stops casting your spell, and then you drop Grounding Totem. So it's super beneficial. I do like that. Again, it's just one of those things, just saves you a little bit of heartache, because what if, for example, you get Novad and you can't move, so you can't stop casting your spell. So that way, it's just like one of those situations that I really do like having it for. And sometimes if you're not playing Grounding Totem, you could like use this, and then you can use your Spearwalker's Grace, and then yeah, you can just cast and like juke with it up. So the at cursor Spear Link Totem, again, just one of those things, saves you a second, so you don't have to click then drop it. So yeah, I really enjoy it. And then these macros are just Dispel macros for my teammates. That way, again, you don't have to target them and click dispel. This way, I can be targeting myself, then dispel them. It's just one of those things. It does save some time. Again, you can do that how you want, but it does save some time, and that can make a difference in the end. The next we're gonna move on to is all my wind shear and hex macros I have. So these are just your basic 1, 2, 3. Wind shear macros, so I do have stop casting in them for the same reason why I have stop casting in a lot of my abilities. So if I'm casting Healing Surge, I see a mage casting Sheep, I just push and then shear. So it's just one of those things that I really like. So yeah, it's just one of those things that can make a difference. I feel like it will improve your gameplay overall if you just have that stop casting in there. But most importantly, having the shear 1, 2, 3 I feel like is super crucial to high level PvP, because that way you don't have to like click them and then try to click one of your buttons really quick. And again, it will help your awareness if you're forced to like look over at the enemy frames, not just tunnel visioning on the health bar of your teammates. It will help improve your awareness, because now you're like, oh, I have to be aware of my teammates' health, and now I have to be aware of the enemy cast bars. So yep, I recommend you like these ones. These macros are more for, but they're not as important as like these macros, like the shear macros that I have. They're like crucial, like you need them, I feel like, in order to succeed in WoW Arena. And then again, you can transfer those skills to other classes you play. Like let's say you're playing a mage and you can have CS 1, 2, 3. So again, it just really helps, and I think overall it's just super good for your gameplay. And then yeah, all the macros are the same. And then I have hex 1, 2, 3, same thing. It's just easier, instead of just having a focus hex, you can do all that stuff. Yeah, you can have like something on your focus, you can be targeting one of your teammates, and then you just cast, you know, one of your 1, 2, 3 hexes. So again, super beneficial. I recommend you having those. And then yeah, I have a focus hex because that's just how I play. I also have a focus wind shear that's somewhere in here. Focus wind shear. So sometimes I don't feel like pushing shear 1, 2, 3. I'll just push my focus shear. And then I do have this shear macro, which is just a regular target shear. So if I target the person, like when I'm out doing like PvE stuff, then I just have that shear. So that's why that is there. Moving on, this is getting more. This stuff is more critical to how I play, because I use my focus as basically just another way of targeting. So that's why I have a focus flame shock and I have a focus lava burst. So again, how I play, I put someone on focus and I can be targeting myself, and then I can do damage or I can purge, you know, whatever. The one thing I do recommend you having, so you don't need focus flame shock or focus lava burst, but I do recommend having focus purge. Because yeah, just the same thing, like you can be targeting your teammates, you know, shoving a riptide on your teammates while simultaneously like purging and being offensive. So I really like that. That's really crucial to how I play, you know, because I do love being offensive. So again, it's just one of those things that helps me to be more offensive. So I feel like a lot of you would benefit from using this macro. And then the last one, focus lightning bolt. Again, it's just more crucial. It's just more important to how I play. Cast lightning bolt. I also have cancel aura, blessing of protection. So when I play against a mage, and if I need Reed to bop me out of a blind, he does that. Then I just push that button and it cancels bop. So that way the mage doesn't purge it, and I don't have to worry about purging a gajillion things as well. I'm gonna be discussing is my add-ons. Now this should be super quick. So the two add-ons that I absolutely recommend that you use is going to be Omnibar. As you can see here, you can keep track of the various enemy cooldowns that they have popped. So super crucial to playing Arena. That way it just makes it a lot easier, not having to guess when they have kicks or other things like that. And then the last one is going to be Gladius. And this just makes it easier for you to look at the enemy frames, because it's not going to be way over here and way smaller. You can adjust, you know, the frame to being bigger, smaller, and you can change other little things like that. So those are going to be the two add-ons that I absolutely recommend that you use. And yeah, so I think that is going to be it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I really hope everyone that watched learned something for the Resto Shaman class. And if you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment below. And remember to like the video, and if you're new, to subscribe to the channel, because all the support does really mean a lot, and it does encourage me to continue to make longer videos like these.